Good afternoon, students. Thank you. Today, I am here to present the examination-based contact class for 2020 examinations, and I hope you pay attention carefully. Now, I want to say that, maybe let me start by introducing myself. I know many of you already know me because you have done my assignment. I am Mrs. C.I. Omalo, responsible for Educational Foundations 2. Now, this Educational Foundation 2 is not just for one group alone. If you can see what I have on the screen, you will see it covers these different groups. So you are expected to use this presentation in preparation for your examination in 2022, I mean. Now, this examination presentation will cover all the examinations. What I mean by all the examinations, I mean it will take care of the April examination for 2022, the August examination for 2022, and the November examination for 2022. But I also want to inform you here that I have not demarcated this examination. What I mean by that, I have not said this section is for April, this is for August, and this is for November. What it means then is that students, you are expected to read. Many times I find many of you calling me at the last minute, trying to get information you should have gotten long time ago. So I pray that this year will be different, that we will sit down and read. I think the presentation is being given on time for you to have an ample time to prepare yourself. So if you start from now going through the presentation gradually, I don't see any reason why you will not be able to make it at the end of the year. I also want to use this opportunity or platform to say thank you to those students who really put effort in the assignment and they scored very high marks. Do not go down from that, rather build on it. And for those who didn't do so well, this is an opportunity for you to improve in the examination. There is still time for you to do a lot. Now, having said that, students, now I want to look at how the examination format is going to be so that you can prepare yourself very well. Now, how is the format of the examination? The question paper, like I have said, it is for April, August, and November 2022 examinations. And two of these papers consist of 2 sections for each examination. Now, the April and the August examination both have 2 sections. But the interesting thing is that you are expected to answer all the questions there. But for the November examination, it just has 1 section. The April, the August have got 2 sections, like I have said. You are expected to answer all the questions. So we have section A, which deals with basic knowledge, the very basic knowledge you should have about the model. We have section B, which deals with higher and very high levels of questions. So all the sections are compulsory, like I have said. In other words, you have to answer all the questions. You know that the duration of the examination in this model is 2.5 hours. Perhaps I need to break it down, the section A and section B. The section B, you have already understood that it will be made up of higher and very high levels of questions. But for question A, that will be mainly for basic knowledge. And what is there in section A is that students, you will have multiple choice questions You will have true and false type of questions. You will have matching questions, matching items, and you will have very short answer questions where you've got to sometimes have to fill in the necessary information. So the thing is that I have you covered this time. No one is going to complain because I have almost touched on every section of the model, so that if you have read any section very well, you are bound to see what to answer in that section. So like you know, the questions will be answered in the question paper, like I have said. For the multiple choice questions, the true, false, matching and short answer questions, you don't guess. You have to think very carefully before providing answers. So it requires you to sit, don't jump at the first sentence you can't recognize. Make sure you listen or you read through and think before you answer. Now, besides this information I have provided on the previous slide, like I have explained, I am still on the examination format, students. You should also make sure your student number is written correctly. I cannot overemphasize that. When you write a wrong student number, it causes a lot of problem. So ensure that your student number is written correctly. Also make sure that you have written the correct module code. Like you know, there are different module codes. So ensure that you know the code of the module you are taking. Read the instructions on the question paper carefully and ensure you understand what is required before you start writing. This is very, very important. Always sit down, take a breath and think before you write. Answer questions in the correct order in accordance with the question paper. Take cognizance of the verbs used for the questions. This is where we make big mistakes. Look at the verbs. The verbs are explained in almost all the study guides I have seen. Take time to look at the different verbs and try to understand them. Understanding the verbs will help you a lot in ensuring that you answer questions as expected. So what that means, students, is that you will need to familiarize yourself with the explanation of the different verbs in your study guide. Now, I'm still on the examination format, students. The mark allocation, that is the next point I want to talk about, is very important indeed. Now, it's important because it tells you how much information you should provide. Like, you cannot write half a page for a question of just 3 marks. So you have got to look at the mark allocation carefully. That tells you what the lecturer is requiring from you. If a particular question says 10 marks, it then means that the lecturer is looking for more facts about that particular topic, and therefore you need to provide enough information. But if it's just 2 marks, you should also provide information, maybe 2 facts. So therefore it is important you look at the mark allocation, because sometimes you waste unnecessary time on questions that don't carry a lot of mark, and spend very little time on questions you can earn a lot of mark, and therefore ensure your success in the examination. Go straight to the answer to a specific question. Do not beat about the bush. Answer questions as they have been asked. Do not start going round and round. Writing too many words does not ensure your success. The lecturer is looking for facts. It might just be in 2 lines, but you have wasted almost 10 lines writing unnecessary things. So what happens is, when you go round and round, you make mistakes and you contradict yourself. That is the danger of just writing. Sometimes you go out of point and you begin to contradict yourself, and that will cost you mark, because the lecturer will not know exactly where you stand. So make sure to write complete answers. Don't write half answers. Do not leave out parts of questions. Concentrate on the model outcomes which you're already familiar with. Apply your answers to your field of study. Like you see, we have different groups here. Apply your answers to your field of study. Now, going to the examination scope, students. I'm going to be very brief. If you have watched my scope over the years, I am not here to give you answers to the questions, because that will not do you any good. You will only memorize, and sometimes you are tempted to even copy into the examination. I am here to direct you on what to read. And if you listen to my presentation carefully, you will see the areas you need to concentrate on. You are not being asked to read the whole study guide. Sometimes some people are calling me, what page, what topic, what chapter? There are specific things you should look out for. So you are not asked to cover the whole syllabus, the whole study guide. Remember, we have got syllabus, things that we should cover. Part of those things are in the study guide. It's not everything that you are required to cover there. So concentrate on those things that are important and leave the unimportant things. So I have April 2022, I have August 2022, I have November 2022. These are the different exams we will be sitting for in the course of next year. So please ensure that you prepare yourself adequately by going through the topics given in this presentation. Like I told you when I started, I have not demarcated. What I mean by that, I have not separated the topics according to the examination. It therefore means that you need to prepare for each of the examination by thoroughly going through the different topics as indicated here. So prepare yourself for the examination. Prepare yourself for any examination whatsoever. After all, it is coming from the same book, Educational Foundations 2. So prepare yourself enough to be able to write any examination, be it April, be it August, be it November, you are prepared. Now, having said that, students, let me start by looking at what I have here. I have taken from the different units that are contained in our syllabus. Now, the unit 1, which deals with Futures and Value of Sociology and Philosophy of Education. Now, what am I expecting you to look into in this particular unit? Please look into the things I say you should look into. And please remember that we have got 2 books for these Educational Foundations 2. We have the Foundation, Educational Foundation 2, that was written by Dr. Brunette, and we have the one written by Mrs. Nemat. And because you are taking this module together, it will be unfair to concentrate on the one being used for the DPP and forget that the other groups are also they are using the same are going to write the same examination. So I have tried to use the two books. And I expect you, as the good students you are, to go out and search for information. Don't sit down and say, no, it's not in my book, I don't have to bother myself. No, that is wrong. The essence of being a student is for you to investigate, find out information, look for these materials that will help you to be able to succeed. So in a nutshell, there are two books which you will be looking out for. One is the Educational Foundation 2, written by Dr. Brunet, and the second one is Educational Foundation 2, written by Mrs. Nemat. Now, going to the unit which I have started before I deviated a little bit, which is Unit 1, the futures and value of sociology and philosophy of education. So I would like you to study the following concepts. One, the meaning of education. You need to know the meaning of education, both formal and informal education, what they mean. You need to know the functions, the roles education plays in the society. That is another one. And I have referred you to Educational Foundation 2 by Mrs. Nemat. She has talked extensively on education, the different types of education. She has also written a lot on the roles education play in the society. That you will not find in Dr. Brunet, and that is why I have put that information there for you to look for the book written by Mrs. Nemat and access this information. Another thing, the number in Unit 1 will be looking at the meaning of schooling. Under this, we also have African schooling that has also been explained well by Dr. Brunet, African schooling. So we might look at how schooling was with the Africans before and schooling today. Now, having said that, I'm still in Unit 1. Unit 1, it's not like that in, sometimes it's Unit 2 in that of Mrs. Nemat, sometimes it's Unit 2 in that of Dr. Brunet. But the essential thing is that you look at the topic. The topic is very important. The unit where you find it is not that important. When you see the topic, whatever unit it is, you have to read it, whether it's in Unit 1 or it is in Unit 2. So the futures, the Unit 1 still continues now. The futures and value of sociology and philosophy of education. So I will also need you to familiarize yourself with the following. The meaning of sociology of education. Remember, Education Foundation is a mixture of philosophy and sociology. So I would like you to go read the meaning of sociology of education. You need to understand that. The meaning of socialization. What is socialization? Many times we have heard that term. What exactly is socialization? I want facts. I don't want just the knowledge we pick from the street. I want information based on facts. So under this, we will be looking at the different types of socialization. So if you understand socialization, you should also understand there are different types of socialization. Like we do have primary socialization, we have secondary socialization, and you have tertiary socialization. And it is your responsibility to go find out what these different socializations are about. And then we have what we call mode of socialization. Mode, that is the mode on which socialization takes place. So we will also look at, it is also in Unit 1, the explicit socialization, the role modeling. Here you can consult both guides for foundations too, because both of them have got this information here. Now, having said that, students, you also need to understand in Unit 1, there is a relationship between freedom, responsibility, and accountability. if we know there is a relationship between, but what exactly is that relationship? I would like you to read these two textbooks I have recommended to you so that you can establish the relationship that exists between freedom, responsibility, and accountability. Now, we're still going, Unit 1 is quite much. So, it's still on Unit 1, the impact of the different philosophical schools of thought. That is the next one we will need to pay attention to, the different philosophical schools of thought. So, we will concentrate on the following under this topic, the philosophical schools of thought. These are the things we will be concentrating on. We will look at the concept of philosophy of education and sociology of education, their meanings. We need to look at what they mean. Now we will also look at the difference or differences between these concepts. Why do we separate them? Are there some similarities? Are there some differences that you need to establish when you read up these two concepts? Philosophy of education and sociology of education. And it is also necessary for you as a teacher to know why you should have to study this educational foundation too. What benefits do you have by studying philosophy of education? What benefits will you get by studying sociology of education? That I want you to find out and know. What are the benefits you will have for studying these two different subjects that have been put in one? Philosophy of education and sociology of education. Now, having said that, I am still on the different philosophical schools of thought. So we have quite a lot in the study guide. And I am challenging you now to go and look at their meanings. It took almost half of the study guide. They are not there for fun. They are there for us to study and know how we can use them. So what am I expecting you to study here? Under the philosophical concepts, I would like you to look at definitions and explanations of what? Of these things I have here. One is metaphysics, the other one is epistemology, the other one is anthropology, the other one is ethics. I have logic, ontology. You need to understand this concept. What do they mean? How can we apply them to education? They are not there for fun. They are not big words for nothing. They are meant for us to use them. So we've got to understand these concepts. These concepts are inside the study guide. You don't need to look far. They are in the Educational Foundations book, both the one written by Dr. Brunet and the one written by Mrs. Nemat. Now, besides that also, we also need to look at these ones. When I say you need to look at them, you need to look at them. We have the concept of pragmatism, which is also part of philosophical schools of thought. We have also progressivism. Then we have idealism. These are concepts I want you to get familiar with. Know what they mean. Know what they are saying. Know how we can use them. How we can use them in our teaching to improve our teaching and the education system. Think about how we can design our preschools to conform to the principles of idealism. When you look at idealism, you will need to now check that our preschools, those we are teaching, these idealism have got certain things we need to look into. How do we now design our preschools so that they conform to the principles of idealism? Now, after that, I have Unit 3. Unit 3 deals with social and philosophical issues regarding school curriculum and implementation. Like I have said, don't start looking for Unit 3. It might not be exactly Unit 3 in the study guide you have, but look at the topic. The topic says social and philosophical issues regarding school curriculum and implementation. So I would like you to study the benefit of life orientation as a subject. I want you also to look at the subject life skill which we have in our Namibian schools. Pay attention to the educational benefits, to the social benefits, to the health benefits, the economic benefits of this particular subject to learners. You need to look at it in that light. The educational, the social, the health, and economic benefit of life skill subject to our Namibian learners. So you need to also understand the importance of teaching values and norms in the schools. We are saying learners are becoming unruly, learners are becoming uncontrollable. We need to teach values and norms, and I want you to understand why. So you've got to read to find out why we need to teach values and norms in our schools, and also find out why it is difficult to teach values and norms in the schools today. Many schools, even though teaching values and norms are very important to make sure that learners behave properly, but there are challenges to teaching this because values and norms are not the same. Some people don't see things the same way. So we have some challenges. But if you read the study guide written by Mrs. Nemat, it thoroughly explains these challenges of teaching values and norms in the schools. Now, so I am also looking at the quality of Namibian education. Here we're talking about sociology of education, a perspective on the family. So we will be looking at the topic that deals on the family. It is there in the study guide. It's known as Sociology of Education, a perspective on the family. So if you look at the study guide, you're going to see this topic. There, I would like you to go through the different types of families we have. We have come from different types of families. So it is important we understand that we don't just have the nuclear family. There are so many different types of family. So you're going to try to read and understand about nuclear families, extended family, compound family. We have also the single parent family, and we also have the childless family. What do they mean? When someone says, I'm coming from a nuclear family, what is your understanding of it? When somebody says, my family is a compound type, what do you understand by it? So I want you to look at the different types of families, like I have listed here, as you can see them. Go find out information about them. Now also understand the meaning of poverty. That is another area I would like you to look into under this topic. Poverty, it's with us. It's really killing many of us. So under this, I want you to understand that there are two types. We have what we call the absolute and relative poverty. What is the difference between this type of poverty, the relative and the absolute? And we're going to be looking at factors that contribute to poverty. What are those factors that contribute to poverty? And again, we will look at how we can minimize, reduce poverty. And to get all of this information, you may not find it in the study guide of Dr. Brunet, but certainly it is in the study guide written by Mrs. Nemat. So you can access the information there. So going to Unit 4 class. Unit 4, I think the best book you would like to read here will be the study guide that has this explanation which I'm giving here will be Dr. Brunet. Because a lot of you may be calling me and say, Miss, where can I access this information? I can't see it anywhere. So you will need to look for that study guide. So Unit 4 deals with Sociology of Education, a perspective on the family again. But this aspect has been well explained by the book written by Dr. Brunette. So here I would like you to study the educational activities and styles of parents. Parents have different styles. We have different types of parents with the different styles of parenting. So under this study, we will need to study the following: the authoritarian or rejecting parents, the authoritarian kind of parents, or what we call the rejecting parents. I want you to understand the concept, what these parents do, how they bring up their children. We also have the casual parents, parents who their parental style is very casual, or what we can say, it is laissez-faire kind of attitude, I don't care attitude. I want you to read more about this type of parents, their characteristics. And again, I want you to look at the behavior of children that are trained under these parental styles, how they behave. And then the third one is accepting parents with a democratic attitude. There are parents which we refer to parents with kind of democratic attitude. In other words, they exchange ideas with their kids. How do the children brought up under this parental style behave? So you're going to look at this. If you can access the book by Dr. Brunette, this information is well and very well explained. Now, the Penguin 6 facet of the family is another one that is also well treated. I need you to look into under this topic, under Unit 4, the Penguin 6 facet of the family as an educational environment. The family is usually regarded as an educational environment, as explained by Penguin, his 6 facets of the family. So he has enumerated how the family acts as an educational environment. So I would like you to also go through this. Now, the next one is the vulnerable character of the present-day family. You can also, it is a topic both in Dr. Brunette, very little in, it's also, I think it is also in Mrs. Nemat. So what do I need you to understand under this particular topic? I want you to understand what the term vulnerability means. We always hear, oh, the child is very vulnerable. This person is vulnerable. What does that term vulnerability mean? I want you to understand that. Find out the vulnerability of the family. How the vulnerability of the family. We know many families these days are vulnerable as a result of many factors. Now, how does the vulnerability of the family affect the following? I want you to look at it in terms of the following. Financing education, when the family is vulnerable. In terms of financing education, how does it affect discipline of learners, the role differentiation of learners? This I would like you to look into. Now, you also need to read how education can help to minimize the effect of vulnerability of learners. So you will consult Educational Foundations by Dr. Brunette. Now, that's about that for Unit 4. Now, going to our final unit for the model, which talks about education law issues in Namibia. So under this, there are certain topics you will need to look into. That one of it is finding out the functions of education law. You will also need to read under this topic the Education Act 16 of 2001 regarding the following issues. There is the Education Act 16 of 2001 has clearly explained these following issues, which I'm going to be talking about. And I want you to look at what it says regarding the election of school board and the powers and functions of the school board. It should be powers and functions of the school board. Please note that. Then it talks about the nomination and election of the members of Learners Representative Council. How are they nominated? How are they elected? And what are their functions? And then we also have school attendance. That is another one you will look at under the education law. So I will need you to find out what the education law is saying about these three things I have mentioned here: election of the school board, their powers, the functions. Maybe you can also look at whether these functions are being well performed or there are some shortcomings. Then we will look at nomination and election of members of the Learners Representative Council, what we call popularly as the LRC. So, and then what the Education Act says about school attendance. Students, that is about it. And thank you for listening to me. And if you can just take these issues as we have discussed one by one, I guess by the time it's examination time, you will be done with all of them. Don't start at the end, as you will be overwhelmed and then you begin to call. Start now, knowing fully well there's an examination to be written. So when you enjoy the Christmas, you dance around, party around, remember there is something coming, something serious in 2022. And find little time, even if it is an hour a day, it goes a long way to help you. Thank you very much for listening to me. It's me, Mrs. C. Ayomalo. That is my cell phone number. The email address is there in case you need to reach me. You can easily reach me on the cell number you can see there, or you can drop me an email at that email address. Thank you very much and have a pleasant Christmas celebration. Thank you.